Rivian R1S is the highest rated vehicle ever reviewed by Doug DeMuro. That's saying something. And it is the largest electric SUV to date. Now, we love our giant SUVs here in America, and this one is about as big and as boxy as you could make it. There's a third row, which is big enough for a D1 collegiate rower to fit in.
How's your headroom though?
Headroom's good.
And you can pack up to 4 kids in the back if you're just driving around the neighborhood having fun.
You're gonna buy a Rivian when you grow up?
If you're scared of the dark, there is a flashlight integrated into the driver door, and in case you hate all the nature sound out there at the beach, you can have this giant speaker coming out of the center console to bump your sick beats. And this is the only SUV on the planet that can beat a sports car in a drag race, then turn around and drive up a mountain, all while fitting your family inside comfortably. But at $97,000, this is not one of the cheaper vehicles out there. There is a cheaper version coming, but right now, this one that you're looking at here is a bit pricey. But wait, let's rewind and see how we got here. Rivian unveiled the R1S back in 2018 at the LA Auto Show, along with the truck called the R1T. Back then, no one, myself included, really felt like this was gonna happen. We just didn't think it was real. And that was largely because Rivian had been in sort of stealth mode for almost a decade, and no one had heard from them at all, and they hadn't made a single vehicle yet. But it turns out I and everyone else were wrong about it, and they've now started delivering the R1S here to customers in the United States. So to be clear about this, Rivian let me borrow this vehicle, but they've not seen this video prior to its publishing, nor did they have any editorial input or oversight as to what me and my wife are gonna say here in this video. And all week we've been using it as our daily driver, taking the kids to school, running errands, and having some fun with it. And of course, answering a gazillion questions from people stopping us on the streets or when we're parked.
And that brings us to today's sponsor, Aventon. Aventon is the e-bike, but elevated. It has a range of 60 miles on a single charge. It has this awesome torque sensor and really good front suspension. But the thing that I thought was just the coolest is how it has these integrated lights in the back, where when you hit the brake, it lights up. So you don't need any extra bells or whistles or anything to let people know that you're slowing down. Now, there's a throttle here, which gets you up to 20 miles per hour, and a pedal assist, which will get you up to 28 miles per hour. And it's all controlled and visible right here on this beautiful LCD color display, which also has an app that you can use to sync. In the Aventon app, you can track your rides and even connect with other riders. This bike here is the level 2, and I really enjoy it. I've tried a bunch of different e-bikes, and this is the first one that I really felt like I wanted to get out there and ride with my family. It fits neatly in the back of my Rivian, and it also helps me pull my son on the little attachment I have for him. So that way, the whole family can enjoy this, and that way, one person isn't being totally dragged down and just exhausted while everyone else is kind of having a leisurely ride. And so if you're looking for an e-bike, or maybe the holidays are coming up and you're considering getting one for someone else, I highly recommend checking these guys out. There's a whole bunch of different bikes that they offer, and they've been around for a long time, so they know exactly what they're doing. Check out the link in the description for more, and thanks Aventon for sponsoring the show.
Let's take a quick tour of the R1S and some of its more unique features in case you're unfamiliar. So here in the back of the Rivian, this is really the main event. You have this split kind of design where the top comes up, and then the bottom goes down, so you have a nice little seat. Be on the beach, hanging out, you got some shade, you can still just kind of chill here. Really cool, very Range Rover-esque. And in the back, you'll notice we have a third row here. And with the third row up, we still have about an arm's length or more of storage. So if you know other vehicles with third rows, that is insane, considering this is about 10 inches shorter than a Chevy Tahoe. Now underneath here is something special as well. You pull this guy out, and then you have your little storage compartment here, which has your first aid kit and the hose for the air compressor. And underneath there, you have an actual inflatable tire. I've never seen this before. It's a tire that comes flat. It's a full-size spare. It comes to about 95% the same size as the existing tires, which you need on a vehicle this heavy. And of course, because you have your built-in air compressor right here, you pop that guy on and you put it on the air compressor and it pumps all the way up, ready for you to kind of get back on the road with a real tire. It's just crazy to think that something that big can fit behind the third row in a vehicle that's only about an inch longer than a Tesla Model X. So the back seat, or the third row, is really big. It's big enough for me and my tall friends. Now the cool thing though is that when you put this down, pop that little clip, it goes all the way down, same with the other one. And you have even more storage. Notice this gap right here. That's going to be a pain if you want to put something on there. So this little false bottom pops out and sits right on top of that lip, making it perfectly flush. Meaning if you want to slide anything in and out, you got all the space you need and you don't have any lips or anything to worry about. Now, I have a car seat in this one on the left, so we can't put that one down, but the one on the right can pop down with a button right over here. And now you can see just the tremendous amount of space that you actually have, all the way flat and flush if you want to camp in here, or if you want to put an item, even say almost a 4x8 sheet of plywood. You also can pop this little lip up and kind of keep things in. So the amount of storage you get in a vehicle this size is really second to none. It doesn't get better than this. Just to prove that it's big back here, you have me at 5'11 3/4 with tons of headspace. I fit my friends that are 6'3" back here, and they've never been in the third row of any vehicle with this much room. It is really incredible what you can do considering the platform that this is built on. And if you do need to get out, it's just one little push of a button here. Guy folds forward and slides out, you're good to go. Now in the front of the vehicle, you have a trunk space, and you can open it by double clicking this guy, or there is a button here down below. And the front is a really useful space. In the truck, it's specifically because there's not really a trunk space in it. In this one, you have this false bottom, you have a nice little net to put groceries in, and you can flip this guy open and it magnetically latches there, giving you a huge amount of space. As you can see, we've already used it at the beach with the family. And this just adds to the just absurd amount of storage and capability that this vehicle gives you, whereas another vehicle this size, this type, wouldn't have any of this. Now up here in the front of the car, it's identical to the truck. So the first 2/3 of the vehicle are practically the same. So really the only thing to talk about outside of that is how is it to drive? And for that, I had to bring in my wife. My love, what do you think of the R1S?
Big, spacious, felt a lot like the, what is it, the R1T? And people loved it.
People loved it. Whose people?
All my girlfriends that like big cars.
Right. It's a very big car, kind of. If you're a person, like, and we love these here in the U.S. where we have Tahoes, Suburbans.
Yeah. That's what, it's a full-size SUV.
Yeah.
And I feel like crossovers kind of took over for so long.
They still are. They still own the market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just have a lot of girlfriends that are like, oh, I couldn't drive, like my Model Y. I couldn't drive that car. It's just too small.
Yeah.
Too small. And before that, I had an Acura crossover, and a lot of people thought that was small. In my friend group.
RDX.
I think it was RDX, yeah. So it was funny because you had me drive this, and for me, right away, I was like, oh, I don't need this big of a car.
Right.
Because I kind of like when I have something that's the perfect amount of space, but really compact. And I think it's because I do a lot of city driving. I feel most comfortable when I can pull in parking spaces in small areas. So I've always kind of leaned towards the crossovers. And then you get in this and you're like, it's bigger.
This is full size.
It's full size. Yeah, it doesn't have this crossover feel.
Right.
Like you're not lacking anything in that area because it's a full size SUV. And so right away I was like, I don't know how great I'm going to be for testing this out because I personally haven't owned a lot of big SUVs. So I took it around to all my girlfriends, and every single one of them was like, what is this? This is amazing. This is so cool. So then I started to kind of ask as many questions as I could about what they like about it and what they needed. It's all about the third row. There's not a lot of options, right? You get a minivan.
Yep.
Or you can do something that has these like collapsible seats that you kind of lack on the comfort when you pop them up. So I'm thinking like maybe like a 4Runner, or isn't there like a Jeep that does it? I don't know. There's a few cars that the third row pops up, or even like the Model Y. The third row can pop up on a few of them if you get that configuration.
But then there's the Model X in terms of it has a third row, but it's still not quite as big, right? Like it's definitely better than the Model Y or the other ones you mentioned.
Yeah, the Model X has a good amount of seats in the back. Like the seats feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I've ridden back there a lot of times with just one seat down, and I've done the, where we've had storage in the side. So, but Model X does not feel like an SUV. Do you think so?
No, not really. I mean, this is what I say the first real electric SUV, because
All
SUV
electric.
here in the US means giant. It really came from a car made on a truck body. So imagine if you took an F-150 and just, gave it a
Yep.
camper shell and built that in and put a third row in there, you'd have the Ford Expedition, for example.
That's what this looks like to me. It looks like it has like the camper shell and so it does, you don't lack on any of that space. The Model X to me is not an SUV. And so this is probably the first car I've had for a while that I've driven that I'm like, oh, that is an SUV.
I was interested to learn too that this is about the same size of a Range Rover, a full-size Range Rover, but Range Rovers don't come with third rows. So the big thing to me, and we didn't get to fully test this, but on paper, this is only 1 inch longer than a Tesla Model X. But it feels like like Godzilla compared to Model X. It feels like gigantic, right?
We have to do a little side note or pop something on here because we need to do that before I just don't believe it.
A few minutes later.
Okay, so you were wrong.
I know, it's like the same size.
So we're parked right next to a Model X.
I think the Model X is
basically spot on.
Oh, and here's the thing. Even though they are the same, look at how much the Model X doesn't have, like, it does feel bigger because you have this whole, I don't know, it looks like a canopy or something.
Right. All right, so see here.
Same thing because it's bigger. It does feel bigger than the Model X. I stand by that it still feels bigger than the Model X because height-wise, it's so much bigger than the Model X.
Yeah.
But that's cool to know the distance is the same.
So in terms of parking it though, it should be basically the same.
Yeah, it just feels bigger. It's just like bigger.
It feels, so it's sort of an illusion.
We did park it next to the truck, the Rivian R1T, and it's noticeably shorter, which when I was driving this, I felt like it was longer. So it's like an illusion maybe because of the rectangle body.
Right.
That it felt longer. But yeah, it drove great. It had all the things that we've been loving about the R1T. It's quick. Mm-hmm. It feels really clean and minimal and modern, but like comfortable. And it had a lot of storage. I did really miss the gear tunnel. Yeah,
I felt the same way. I was surprised, but I used the gear tunnel quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a bummer. But
I figured you'd ask me if I would do I know a lot of people have asked me this, if I would do the truck or the SUV.
Right.
And before we had the truck, before like it was ours, we even contemplated that. And we thought maybe
we switched our order.
Okay.
And then we switched it back when we learned that it was going to be way later and whatever.
And I remember thinking we wanted this vehicle because we had been driving the Model X, the Tesla Model X for a while. And we're like, oh, that's so nice having that extra seat for people. But I'm happy we stuck with the truck because for us, we don't have a third kid. And I really feel like SUVs, it's really when you start choosing that over it's like that third person, it's like a no-brainer. You kind of have to do the vehicle that has more seats. Right. We are kind of at that spot where there's just 4 of us in our family and we got away with the truck, and the truck works better for us because of the storage of the truck bed. And then I was talking with my best friend who has 5 kids and she does school pickup and drop-offs and sports, and she's like, hands down would pick something that had more seats. So I feel like if you were also like us, we're on the cusp of like, are you doing the SUV? I keep wanting to call it a Suburban, the SUV or the truck. I think it's about how many seats you want.
Yeah, exactly. If you have more than 2 kids and you're, typical family, whatever, 2 grown-ups, 2 kids, then if you add that third, you need, my friend John, who, has an R1T as well, he has 3 kids and he has them all lined up right here. Mm-hmm. But his wife is dying to get this because she has a minivan right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so she needs that third row.
This is very upgraded from a minivan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what my conclusion was, we can get away with having the truck because it fits all of us comfortably and we get the added storage. And I like to throw stuff in the truck bed. I tend to pick up furniture or wood. And so,
gardening supplies, all kinds of stuff that like you wouldn't really want to put inside of it.
So the truck works great for me, but if you had a third kid or you tend to carry around extra people a lot, you can't pass up having these seats of this car.
Yeah, that's really the main attraction, the main reason to buy this over that. Now, the thing that is, I think, interesting about this is, like I said, it's the first full-size electric SUV. Mm-hmm. So I really think the people that are going to be buying it are your girlfriends that have Tahoes or Range Rovers or whatever.
Dad, this is perfect. You should have bought this.
So to sum it up, if you're deciding between the R1T and the R1S, I think it comes down to if you want to carry more people.
So as an EV advocate, I am just ecstatic that we have an actual competitor in this kind of large SUV space. If any vehicle can convince the Range Rover or Tahoe owner to go electric, this is it. And for that, I'm just really excited to see how it goes with sales and how it kind of fits in the marketplace out there. You know, we already have a bunch of other kind of crossover SUVs. This is the first real large SUV that is fully electric. But it won't be the only one for long. We have potentially the Explorer EV coming out as well as the Kia EV9 coming out. So there's going to be some competition there, but Rivian, like they were with the truck, are first to market in this space. And now that you know something about the R1S, if you really want to understand more about Rivian's offering, you have to check out this video over here where my wife and I break down our experience with the truck version called the R1T. And if you want to compare all the specs and everything side by side, check out evdecide.com.